Do you love getting injectable filler? Well, this is the #2 most popular cosmetic treatment in the United States today. But did you know that filler can make you go blind? Yes, it is true. Filler can actually make you go blind. There was a study published last year that found 190 cases worldwide of blindness from injections of filler. 90 of these cases were due to injections of fat, 53 of them were due to injections of a hyaluronic acid filler, and the rest were due to other injections like calcium hydroxyl apatite and silicone. So how can this happen? Well, let's take a look at the anatomy. If you inject filler into certain arteries of the face, that can cause retrograde flow and result in blindness. Specifically, if filler is injected into the supratrochlear artery, the supraorbital artery, the dorsal nasal artery, or the angular artery, and that filler is injected fairly aggressively to push it back through that artery towards the ophthalmic artery, then that filler can actually go forward and embolize the central retinal artery. This is not all that common, okay? So when you think about it, you have to inject filler into an artery which has high blood pressure. It's actually pushing blood outward. And you have to inject it with enough force to actually push it through that artery, causing bad flow into a central artery, which is the ophthalmic artery, and then it goes forward to that central retinal artery. If the central retinal artery is embolized, if it's basically clogged, you can get immediate blindness from it, and this is a surgical emergency. There are a lot of things that doctors can do at that point to try to get a person's vision back, but honestly, most of them are not successful. So the key to not going blind from injections of filler is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And this is what you can do. Hyaluronic acid fillers are the only fillers that have an actual antidote to them. If you inject hyaluronidase into a hyaluronic acid filler, you can essentially melt that filler away, sometimes within seconds. But that's the only type of filler that does have an antidote. Other fillers, like your own fat, like calcium hydroxyl apatite or others, do not have an antidote to them. So if you're thinking about injectable filler, always go with a hyaluronic acid-based filler. So what about fat? Well, I've been doing injections of fat into the face for decades. And the key for fat injections is to inject it with a hollow cannula. When I inject fat into the face, I do not worry about blindness because I know that I'm injecting it with a blunt cannula through a side port, so the chance of it getting into an actual blood vessel is almost zero. However, there are some doctors who are injecting fat through an actual needle, and that's where the risk is definitely much higher. Hey, want to know the ultimate skincare secret? It's retinol. With this stuff, you can say goodbye to fine lines and wrinkles and hello to smooth, glowing skin. Retinol, a form of vitamin A, works to reduce the appearance of aging of your skin. This powerful moisturizer hydrates your skin, leaving it soft and supple. And with regular use, you'll see a noticeable improvement in your skin's texture and tone. Check out our online store at younbeauty.com or download the Youn Beauty app on your phone to order yours today. So filler can either be injected with a needle, which is sharp, or a cannula, which is blunt. Now the truth is there have been reports of blindness from use of both needles and cannulas, but we do know that in general, cannulas have a lower risk of puncturing a blood vessel and creating that embolization than needles. So if you're thinking about getting injections of filler, ask your injector about what they think about using a cannula for you for better safety. There are danger zones of the face where you have a much higher risk of going blind than other parts of the face. And the two parts of the face with probably the highest risk of going blind is the nose and the glabella. So these are two areas of the face that I almost never inject filler into because I'm concerned about something like that happening. And the reason why it's high risk here is because of, once again, those vessels, the dorsal nasal artery for the nose and the supratrochlear blood vessels for the glabella. So what do you do to treat those areas cosmetically instead? Well, it is much safer to inject Botox into the glabella than filler. To my knowledge, there's never been a single case of blindness from Botox into the glabella, but there have been from filler. And if you're thinking about reshaping your nose, be very cautious. If you're going to use filler, ask your doctor to use a cannula ideally, or maybe you consider an actual rhinoplasty or a nose job to get a permanent change. The third area of risk of blindness from injection of filler are the nasolabial folds, and this is due to the location of the angular artery. Now, this is a very common area that we inject, and the risk of blindness from filler in that area, I believe, is definitely lower than in the glabella or in the nose, but it is still there. In fact, I once got a call from an attorney asking me to testify in a case where a plastic surgeon injected filler into a person's nasolabial fold, and that person went blind from it. So it definitely happens. So what can you do? Well, this is once again is a very common area. We inject the nasolabial folds in my office all the time, but I always instruct my injectors and myself as well to use cannulas whenever possible in this area and to inject very, very carefully. And we're also finding that you don't often need to inject your nasolabial folds. If these folds bother you, quite often we find that injecting filler into the cheeks can help plump and lift those cheeks a bit, and people find that the nasolabial folds afterwards often don't bother them as much. So if you think about getting your nasolabial folds done and you have lost some volume in your cheeks, start with the cheeks first, because you may find that just injecting your cheeks is enough to make you happy. There are a lot of types of physicians, whether they're dermatologists, plastic surgeons, or physician extenders, who are great for injecting filler into the face. But if you're going to get filler injected real close to your eyes and you're worried about blindness and other types of complications, it may be worth your while to see an ophthalmic plastic surgeon. This is a specialty that a lot of people don't even know about, but there are ophthalmologists who have specialized training in plastic and reconstructive surgery just of the eyes. So if you're going to get an injection of filler or anything like that around the eyes, it may not be a bad idea to see one of those types of doctors, because not only are they a plastic and reconstructive surgeon of that area, but they're actual real ophthalmologists who've completed a complete ophthalmology training program. So in some ways, you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a plastic surgeon and an ophthalmologist all in one. Well, there are a lot of mistakes that you can make when you get injectable filler, more than just going blind, but there are also a lot of mistakes that you can make if you want to get your butt bigger. Buttock enhancement is one of the fastest growing procedures in plastic surgery, and there are so many bad things about it. I go over 4 of the most common mistakes made when you're thinking about getting your butt done in this video right up here. And remember, eat real food, use clean skincare, and always wait before you operate.